The original Mini Moog didn't have an LFO, a low frequency oscillator, basically a means of modulating or changing parameters to do with the oscillators in real time. The way it did it, well, it did, but it was kind of a burgled way of doing it. It essentially turned the third oscillator into a modulator. Rather than trying to explain what that means, let's just see it working. So if we click this little orange button called Oscillator Modulation, then Oscillator 3 is now acting as a modulator. It still generates tone, it will still generate a pitch, but that's not what we're using it for. And in fact, we've actually turned it off as far as generating a tone is concerned. If I just briefly, it is still making a tone, but that's not what we want. We'll turn that off so it's not making any sound at all. And we'll turn Oscillator 1 on, so it is making a sound. Okay? Now, watch this. This is the modulation wheel. So I'm turning the modulation wheel up and then back down. So I'm holding a single note down on the keyboard, moving the modulation wheel, and it is changing the pitch of Oscillator 1 according to Oscillator 3's settings. What does that mean, you may ask? Okay, well, let's take this switch here that's currently set to 8 foot, move it all the way down to low, and do that again. So I've just turned the modulation wheel up to about, oh, that's full now. Now then, watch. Semitones. That's a pulse. Oscillator 3 is applying a pulse modulation to Oscillator 1. Let's go through some of the settings. This is also a pulse with a different width. This is another pulse with a different width, just happens to be square. Now we've got a siren kind of thing going on. Let's do a sawtooth. Sloping up and then falling off the cliff. Do it the other way. Inverted saw. Starts off high and slides down. And finally a triangle, which is the closest you get to a sine wave, going up and down and up and down and up and down. Now the oscillator, basically the semitone, is acting as a speed control. So at the moment I'm pressing C3 on the keyboard. Let's press C4. C5. It's going faster. The reason it's going faster is because the key that I'm playing is still having an effect on the frequency of the wave that's being generated. We can disable that feature with this little button here, Oscillator 3 control. If we turn that off, then the keyboard is no longer generating any pitch information to the instrument. So now I'll press C3 again. C4. C5. Now all of the oscillations are at the same speed, and we have a consistent wave, a modulating wave that's applying a pitch change to Oscillator 1. That's frequency modulation being controlled by Oscillator 3. Faster and faster and faster and faster. And as we turn this, that's in low mode. If we turn this mode up, then you can't hear. The waves are operating too fast to be able to hear, and we just get this increasingly, it's basically you can't hear it anymore. It's oscillating too quickly for you to be able to tell what it's actually doing to the sound. Okay, so that's pitch modulation. Oscillator 3 can also modulate the filter setting. So let's turn this off. So we're not modulating the pitch anymore. And we turn this one on, filter modulation. This button here. And now let's switch to triangle. So if I turn this off temporarily, what we're basically getting is but done via a modulation source rather than me moving the knob. So it's changing the filter cutoff frequency periodically as according to this wave and this rate. And where I set the knob will determine the center around which it modulates. And if we speed this up, well, this is what the Mini Moog's all about. It's capable of doing some crazy things. But basically, if you want to be using Oscillator 3 as a modulator, I recommend you stick in the low region. It's acting as a low frequency oscillator. That's the whole point. And now we get some nice effects. That's the triangle. So that's using Oscillator 3 as a pseudo LFO. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.